All right, evening everybody. How we doing? How we doing? So today I hit one win, and that was my one and done for the day. I was kind of surprised at how quick it happened, um, but glad it did. I mean, my trade happened in the span of like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, something like that. Like I started my screen recording, and I didn't even have to like speed it up because I do my trade review with a recording of my live trade to see my stop loss adjustment and all that. Um, and yeah. Anyways, um, coming into pre-market, right? I actually came in with a bullish bias. Okay, so after the close last night, yesterday, yeah. So like maybe it was during Asia, yeah. Those Asia had already opened. I had marked out pre-stage high, pre-stage low. I also noticed we made relative equal lows with Monday's Monday's low, which is just like session reopen low. So on Tuesday we didn't sweep previous day low. We made relative equal lows. Technically it was SMT'd because ES did sweep it, but we did notice okay on ES we swept it, on Q we didn't. On NQ we actually made relative equal lows. I think it's like a one tick difference or something like that. So yeah, I decided to mark it out as previous day's low, relative equal low, and a 4 hour intermediate low, because if you go into the 4 hour time frame and you zoom in here, and we can hide your drawings for a second just to look at it. This low right here, right? This low is previous day's low. You'll see it marked out. This purple line right here, right? That is our previous day's low. It is a low inside a 4 hour fair value gap. It's a bit below, but since it's still being respected by the time this low was created, that makes it an intermediate low, which is just a low, preferably a swing low inside a fair value gap. Yeah, by definition, be a swing low inside a fair value gap. So coming into pre-market, I noticed that London had a bit of a sell-off. If you trade London, you had the chance to catch the low day. Um, but yeah, it traded into that and swept it, and actually created a 1 hour gap off it right here. So it created a bearish fair value gap, which ended up getting inverted near the end of London, um, like in the last hour of London. Um, so yeah, and that move actually created a low volume node, which I had marked out here, right? And we also traded into a previous low volume node that I had marked out. If we look at a volume profile of a higher time frame, I believe it's from maybe it's from all time highs. I think it's actually from all the way back here. So yeah, that's a bit of a low volume node. If you look at maybe from all time highs to where we are now, maybe you could look at it before we trade into it to see what it is. Yeah, you see we have a bit of low volume here, not that much going on. Maybe you want to look at before session reopen. So I had marked out this low volume node right here, specifically like the middle of it is the stronger part of it. This you could consider a low volume node, um, which we respected yesterday. But today, I believe I did have this marked out at the beginning, this area right here. But since we traded all the way down into this one, I think I just decided to delete it. And yeah, that pretty much gives the context for that. So we traded into that. I believe it's also a bunch of hourly fair value gaps all the way back there. Yeah, all the way back here, which we've respected once, twice, 3 times. Then we broke above it, held it as a resistance, broke above it again, and then we kind of held it right here, and we're holding it again. So this is an interesting area for me, right? If you just look at a hourly chart, maybe you want to go from all the way back here till right here. Clearly a low volume node here. And you want to look at, okay, let's see from all time highs. Still low volume there. Okay. This, you could look into it, but it is pretty close to the POC. So I think that also makes it invalid as a low volume node. Or maybe makes it more relevant. I don't know. Still kind of new to that kind of stuff. With low volume nodes, I do have an understanding of looking at different pieces of structure to mark out your low volume nodes. So yeah, that's kind of my criteria for it. And then we can look at a volume profile for session reopened till here. And we noticed price created a low volume node here. I think I had it marked out a bit bigger. Um, maybe we were looking at, I think I was looking at the weekly price action. So like from session reopen on Sunday. Yeah, this is just a low volume area down here, understandably so. Um, but you can look at here maybe. There's just low volume. So you could see this as like, okay, there's a low volume node here, and this is the volume ledge that makes this low volume node. So I decided to mark it out just in case, especially since there's a 15-minute intermediate low here. So if we dumped off open into that, that would have been interesting to see for longs. Anyways, I'm yapping here, but yeah, I noticed that London swept these previous days low, relative equal low, 4-hour intermediate low, all that stuff. Put in London low, which never got swept today, and then we traded into the support zone, held it, rallied off it, and we were just forming consistent bullish structure. We were disrespecting bearish gaps, respecting bullish gaps, put in this intermediate low right here. So I had those marked out, and we can probably delete this pre-stage low for now because I don't think it held any relevance. It was also swept on ES, as you can see on this side over here. So yeah, and we can probably mark out the same lows just to have an idea of the price sweep them, yes or no. I think of S&T actually ended up forming somewhere around here. This is an S&T actually, but yeah, I believe that's everything I had marked out. But yeah, we can mark them out like that. I didn't really mark out that many zones, that many highs and lows on ES. That's probably something I could have done better. I think I just focused too much on NQ. At the end of the day, they are different assets. They are correlated. So I guess I didn't pay that much attention to what ES was doing in terms of its highs and lows. I was just really paying attention to its behavior. How is price moving? Like if we're dumping on NQ, are we actually dumping on ES? Because if they're moving in opposite directions, then that's kind of maybe a sign for you to be maybe skeptical of the market move, or the move that you're expecting, right? Anyways, once again, I'm still yapping here. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. We also had this hourly gap that formed in Asia right here. It was also a low volume area. I'll get into that in just a second. We put in Asia high right here. It's actually showing the full hourly candle, so it's showing what happened. But we also had an intermediate low right here, intermediate high, sorry. So a 15-minute high inside a 15-minute gap, and those were actually low volume nodes. So if we look at a volume profile from session reopen, so here up until here, right, when we can zoom in here, we can kind of see there's low volume here and low volume here, and it's not just a low volume area, there's actually ledges in between these areas. So that's why I like marking them out, especially this one that was an hourly gap. So we're marking it out as a 50-minute low volume node and a 1 hour for value gap. Okay, so I had it marked out as a 50-minute low volume node plus for value gap, and I understood what it was. Plus I also had it marked out like here, right, the start of the fair value gap, and we had Asia high, so we had a draw some liquidity. And after market opened, we're actually going to look at it in the 3-minute because that was my execution time frame, sorry. And off open, this happened. We swept this intermediate low, and I'm like, cool. I think when I saw this, it was a dump and then a very strong rally. And I say that because I want you to notice here, if we look at the screenshot I took of Bookmap, we created a massive low volume node here, okay? So two things with this low volume node, right, is low volume nodes, you can either trade towards them or you can trade off of them, right? But you gotta watch the reaction to trade off of them. Same thing with for value gaps. If you're trading inversions, you usually look for them to get inverted. If you trade the IFVG model, maybe you know that you can target unmitigated gaps. So my thought process with this was, okay, we swept an intermediate low, right? We swept that. But we also reached this hourly gap, this 15-minute low volume node and hourly gap. And then I wanted to wait a little bit longer, right? Once I saw the quick dump, I'm like, okay, cool, maybe longs can play out. Maybe I want to see a retrace into this low volume node. But then what happened? We ended up sweeping Asia highs, okay? So we ended up sweeping Asia highs, and this is where I kind of saw price stalling out, right? I was looking at order flow at this point in time, and around, I believe it was this candle, I can actually probably look at the exact execution. I don't think it's gonna show, but it was during the formation of this candle, or I believe maybe the next one, that I entered. And the reason why I entered, mainly two things. Okay, obviously I had a strong bullish bias, right, coming into the day, but I was like, okay, what do I want to see if we want to get long? I want to see a retrace into the low volume node to target what? This intermediate high, this low volume area, and this previous day's high or 1 hour intermediate high. The problem with this is we've already swept Asia highs. We've reached an hourly gap in this low volume node, and we kind of tapped the volume ledge of the low volume node between the two low volume nodes, and price was stalling out here. Price kind of slowed down. I'm like, okay, what is order flow telling me? This is what I saw in the order flow. On bookmap, I saw we had failed buying here, right? You can see we had failed buying, right? Nope. Come on, there we go. We had failed buying, and I also noticed we were just stalling. We were just stalling for maybe like roughly 5 minutes. We were stalling, and I saw we had more failed buying here, but the CVD was significantly lower. There was like a 300 point difference. So like I think the CVD up here was at maybe like 300, and this was negative something, like close to zero, but in the negatives. So I'm like, okay, we're in the same area, still seeing failed buying, but our CVD is lower. That's weird, right? That's something that one of my mentors says when he talks about order flow. That's weird, right? When you see kind of a discrepancy, right? Like price is around the same area, yet we're seeing fail buying and our CVD is heading lower. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's a passive seller loading up on orders. So I'm like, okay, I'm open to trying this short, and I entered at 8. What was it? Like 8:12. Yeah, 24 8:12. That was my entry. I had my stop at the high. I'm like, if I'm wrong, I want to be wrong very quick. So I had my zone marked out, right? And it was, can't remember the exact number. I think it was like, let me double check. 796, I believe that was the zone that I had marked out. So we'll mark out as bullish FEG, and I believe it was 796, right? So 796, and then just the bottom of the 3-minute fair value gap. So this was the low volume node plus the 3-minute FPG. This was the zone I was looking at. This is what I wanted to trade towards. So let's say I entered in this candle, right? And I believe, let me see, I can double check where the candle was. It was above, a little above these sides. So yeah, something like this, maybe 796. I wish I would have taken a screenshot of the values, but I'm pretty sure it's, actually I think it was 797. Let's put it at 797 to be try to be as precise as possible. But yeah, anyways, this is the zone I had marked out. I'm like, okay, we're seeing failed buying, a pretty, in my opinion, a significant difference in CVD. We're around the same area, and price rejected from it. Then, you could have waited a bit more, but I was like, this is good enough for me. And then I saw, we traded into the gap. I'm like, okay, we're rejecting from it. We're trading into the 3-minute gap. I'm fine with that. That's fine. And then also, I was hopping in between the 3-minute and the 5-minute, and I noticed, okay, we traded into the 5-minute gap. Cool. If I get stopped out here, that's fine. And then, I saw this candle. In the process of price forming this candle, this is what the order flow was showing me. We retested that same area, so it was right here. So the wicks of these candles is this point in price right here. We can put it maybe side by side. Yeah. So this right here is the same as this. Okay? And then after that, we saw more failed buying with the same CVD lower than up here. And then we saw aggressive sellers step in. So once I saw these aggressive sellers step in, that's when I was like, cool, I can trade my stop. So we can mark it out like this, and we can say this is my stop loss. Okay? So you can see clearly where our stop loss is, and we can, obviously I had my eyes on ES at the same time, but at this point, because of how price was moving, I was like locked in on NQ, and then just out of the corner of my eye, I was looking at ES. But yeah, I saw that, and then once we reached, because this candle did reach that low volume node, um, when this candle started printing, and it was coming near to like my break even, so like my position was at break even. I first trailed here, and then I saw price reach the low volume node. You can clearly see it here when it reached that low volume node. When it did that, I decided to go break even, and I just trailed to this wick, mostly because it was like 2 points in profit. So like I wanted to cover like commissions in case I ended up getting stopped out and break even. I could cover the loss of the commissions and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, after that, I believe the next candle, something crazy happened. This was an insane win. And I can show you like the live execution if I can probably find it somewhere. Let me see. Where'd I have it? But yeah, obviously this ended up hitting take profit, but I want to go over a little bit of what I was doing. So we got a 235 RR. And I can even show you a screenshot of my executions, which I believe I have it here actually. Sorry, I'm taking a bit longer than usual. But honestly, I'm kind of excited about this trade because it was like such a cleanly framed trade, right? Like I was. Oh, I also forgot to go over other confluences that I had in mind. That's on me. We can look at here. I was updating the volume profile as we went along. You can clearly tell I have ADHD. But anyways, I was looking at the volume profile and I was seeing that we were failing to break above that value area high. We're sustaining below it. We're failing to break above it. And I also had my overnight VWAP on here. So I like to have the overnight VWAP with the upper and lower bands. And I also saw price failed to sustain above it. We got above it. You can kind of see it there, right? You can probably delete these for now. You can see this low volume node right here, right? You can delete this as well. Just gonna let you see. That's a upper VWAP band. We got above it, failed to sustain above the value high, and failed to sustain above the upper VWAP band. So I'm like, okay, I have a lot of confluences on this trade. Okay, so I have a lot of confluences on this trade, and I was willing to take it because I knew I was gonna be trailing aggressively. I was gonna go maybe adjust to the highs if I had a chance. I got my chance to do so when this candle was forming, and then I got my chance to do so once we reached this low volume node. But I wanted to show you the live execution of it. If I can find it, that'd be nice. You can kind of see it here. Yeah, I entered at 812, got out at 742.75. So that was my execution. 812 my entry, 742.75 my exit. But I wanted to go over the live execution if I can find it right here. Oh, yeah, and we can go over this together. So this is around the time I entered during the formation of that candle, this candle right here. And we'll just speed up a bit. And I saw price rejecting. Check the economic calendar because we did have PMI at 10, so I wanted to be aware that we were approaching that time. If I could get out or be break even before that came out, awesome. If not, whatever. But this is where I saw that failed buying, right? If you remember me talking about that, let's see. Once I saw this failed buying and I was seeing aggressive sellers stepping in, that's what I was seeing here. I was adjusting my position tool because it was wrong. My entry was wrong on the position tool, and then that's where I had my stop initially. Once I saw that aggressive selling stepping in, that's where I adjusted my stop, as you can see. And then this candle was still forming, and that's where we reached the low volume node. We did on the chart, we did on bookmap. Yeah, you can see initially I just trailed, just kind of guessing where I wanted to go break even. Didn't really have a structural point. And as soon as I did that, I'm like, wait, I gotta do this off structure because otherwise, why would I be break even here, right? You gotta have something that validates your break even point. And my thought was, this wick, good enough for me. But I was just trying to be more aggressive with my trailing once again because we had that low volume note there. With the volume notes, we either flush through them or we get a strong reaction off it. So I'm like, this can stop me out, and I'm fine. I'm break even. I did my job. So yeah, we reached that, and then we see aggressive sale volume coming in. We're flushing throughout low volume node, and you can see by the time we're getting past that low volume node, that's where I trailed to the 3-minute body. I trailed to the 3-minute body, I'm like, okay, I've done my job. I think I'm just gonna hold here, and I believe after this, yeah, sell volume just continued to come in, and ended up hitting TP. Like honestly, I was shocked at how quick this happened. Um, I think that's just what happens when you. And I ended up putting an emoji there because I was hyped. I was hyped for this trade playing out the way it did. And you know what's funny? If you play out the rest of price section, it just continued to rip. Like we went to maybe all time highs. I can't remember. Yeah, we went to all time highs after that. We hit all time highs in PM session. Um, but it was kind of crazy how I top ticked the entry and bottom ticked the exit. Um, like honestly, I don't have much to say. I think I did a great job in aligning my confluences and having a clear trade idea before taking it. Um, like honestly, I'm proud of myself for this trade, and I don't want to like get too hung up on the win because at the end of the day, I just did my job, right? I had my context, right? I had a bullish bias and I had a reason to have a bullish bias, but we also hit our bearish confluences. So I'll just read out to you whatever done in my journal, right? NQ swept pre-stage low in London, got below the value area low for the week, and reached the support zone, which is that 1 hour low volume node with fair value gaps. After doing all that, price was recovering. We inverted a 1 hour bearish fair value gap from London, created a 50-minute low volume node with fair value gap, which is this zone right here. It looks like we're sustaining above the current week's value area low. We do have PMI at 10 a.m. We could just wait for that. Off open, we swept that 50-minute intermediate low, displaced higher, forming a low volume node, which is a 3-minute and a 5-minute FVG. And then I said I could see longs if we retrace into it. However, since price reached some bearish confluences, I was open to playing the retrace, aiming for price to rebalance the low volume node and simply trail aggressively. This ended up being my trade idea, and this is what you're seeing on the chart right now. As in terms of location, we reached the 1 hour fair value gap, low volume in 15-minute, and swept Asia high. We retested the upper view up end and value area high and failed to break and sustain above both of these. So I had a lot of confluences in terms of location. Now we just need confirmation. Price was stalling out at Asia high with failed buying. We had a significant difference in CBD, but price is still in the same area. And I just entered once I noticed this. So I noticed this off these wicks, okay? And then in terms of trade management, first adjustment was of seeing more failed buying and sellers stepping in, which is during the formation of this candle. And then I trailed to 2 points in profit once we hit that low volume node, which is this first trail right here. And then the second trail was down here, which is where I finally trailed to the 3-minute candle body that was getting past the low volume node. So you notice in the video, I trailed to the candle body once we were getting past that low volume node, and I was just targeting the opening candle low. That was my target. It was a 2.35 RR. That was good enough for me. I took my piece of the pie and left. And glad I did, because I could have been like, yeah, this is going to rip lower and target London lows. Oh, I want to go for the freaking 6 RR. How often do you hit those separate trades? Me personally, not that often, right? So my strategy tells me take your piece of the pie at the 2R. Maybe even the 1R if that's all you're getting, if you draw on liquidity is there. So yeah, pretty solid overall. Maybe I could have been quicker with my stop loss adjustment. You kind of saw me a bit hesitant there on the video, but I think I did a good enough job. I managed to have a flexible bias. I feel like that's something very important. I was not married to my bias at all. I was able to frame both sides of the trade. I could see why one would want to long off of this wick. Very valid at the value area low. Kind of close to that lower view up end. Failed to sustain below the value area low, so you can maybe play to getting back to the POC. Maybe take partials there, or like just hold, see if we sustain above it. We do, and then price just strips. But anyways, because of how quick the trade happened, I was like, what the heck just happened? Like I was kind of in a shock. It is a low volume node, so the flush would be pretty quick. But yeah, I'm used to holding trades for longer, and they take a longer time to play out. This was just a very quick in and out, which I haven't seen an opportunity like this in a while because of how PA has been. But yeah, managed to have a flexible bias and a very clear idea before taking the trade, right? Just a lot of confluences in alignment, hourly fair value gap, Asia high, low volume node, upper view upend, value area high, fail buying, CVD. Like, I just stacked the confluences back to back to back to back, and it paid. That's all I can say. And I had proper framing, right? I knew the overall daily sentiment was bullish, and I was like, once I saw market open, I'm like, okay, cool. Then maybe yeah, this is gonna be bullish. But once I saw us reach this hourly gap, the low volume node, Asia high, price line, like I was able to tell myself maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe this is what you should take. That's what I did. I did a good job, and it paid. So yeah, now our account balance is like 500 in profit. I want to say. We can double check really quick if it'll load. Yeah, I don't know if it'll show right there. Oh, come on, come on. No, you can barely see it. Anyways, yeah, it's 587.80 in profit. It's a 50k eval, so pretty solid recovery because my first trade was a TP on this account. Then drawdown, recovered a bit, but not enough. More drawdown, recovered a bit, but not enough. And then this trade actually got us in profit again, even with the trailing drawdown. We now actually have the full trailing drawdown, not just part of it. So yeah, pretty solid freaking trading day. Not much to say. I think I followed my rules. I was locked in on the charts and it paid. What can I say? I think when you have a winning day like this, it's hard to find something wrong with it. Um, Maybe since it's also valid to say like, oh, we set this 50-minute intermediate low. I also think like Asia highs has more. Asia highs and the low volume node. Like I had more confluences on this than down here, right? I feel like down here, you could have entered longs down here, retest of overnight VWAP, value area low, and then a pop. But you would have had to enter at the wick for it to be a good trade, and quick in and out as well. Maybe target Asia highs, or there's Federal gap. Either way, I think I just did a good job overall. It paid, and yeah, I'm gonna try to do have a similar performance or the exact same level of performance for the rest of the week, and just keep up the consistency. And yeah, that wraps up today's straight recap, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.